We have Aditya Ghosh, co-founder Akasa Air, in a special conversation with Ajay Mehtani, President, Asset Management, HVS ANAROCK. Let's get started with a good round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. Over to you, Ajay.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. We've got the finest expert in the aviation in India. I think he needs no introduction, really. He's kind of built the entire Indigo business right from scratch, which is one of the finest airline in India today, with a leading market share of almost 50% and above. And so, Aditya, thank you so much for joining us today.
Absolutely, my pleasure.
What I would like to start with is you're now looking to build another airline. You've just started another airline. What was your thinking behind it?
Well, whether it was 2005 when I was involved in the first 100 aircraft order at Indigo, or in 2021 when we were looking at ordering the first set of airplanes at Akasa, what has not changed in the last 20 odd years is that India continues to be a highly underpenetrated aircraft market in the world. If you look at even today, the aircraft capacity that is flying in India today is less than what it was pre-pandemic. Right? A country of, in 2005, a country of 1.1 billion people had 110 commercial airplanes. In 20 years, India added 300 million people, and we've added, 400 airplanes? So just fundamentally, the equation is so stark in terms of the gap between demand and supply that it makes sense. The second thing is, but having said that, this is what has not changed. But what has dramatically changed is the supporting infrastructure that is there is very different and has a lot more tailwind for us in Akasa today than when we were trying to start out 20 years ago. And I'll just touch on a few. A country with about 900 million people under the age of 35, nominal GDP per capita crossed $2,000. Aviation industry growing at 14% annually. And we were just talking to one of our colleagues, in 2010, 2011, 90% of all air traffic in India used to be between Delhi and Bombay.
Right.
So I remember when we were doing the Indigo IPO, this was like a big thing, right? Like, how do you sustain this kind of growth? Today, Delhi-Bombay is probably 50%. Metro to metro growth has been 7 to 8%, and it's been kind of flat. Metro to non-metro has grown at 14%. Non-metro to non-metro has grown at 32.3%. So this, what we kind of see this, whatever we call it, India, Bharat, whatever we call it, we are actually being able to see the reality of it, and then we kind of base a business around those fundamentals.
Right. And you've again chosen to stick to the low-cost model while there is consolidation happening in the industry, obviously with Vistara and Air India looking at a full-service model. You stuck with the low-cost.
Yeah.
What is your thinking? Isn't there a monopoly, an opportunity in a full-service model, or you think that India is actually going to be a low-cost model?
See, I'm not only in the airline business, I'm involved in a bunch of different things, but primarily around consumer spending. And I do feel that the affordable segment of the market is going to grow at an exponentially faster pace than any other. Does that mean that there will not be a market for the full service? Not at all. But when you're trying to chase that kind of growth and trying to deploy that kind of capacity, then the low-cost models around the world is the model for success. When you look at any part of the world, whether it's Southeast Asia, you think of AirAsia. You think of North America, you think of Southwest and JetBlue. You think of Europe, you think of Ryanair, EasyJet. You think of India, you think of Indigo, Akasa. So when you look at any part of the world, this is the model that kind of works. And irrespective of the business model, what is key to profitability in our business is whether your cost structure is competitive and your cost structure is at a point where you can charge your customer more than what your cost structure is. And for sure, you know, it's been time and again, it's been proven that whoever has the sharpest cost structure is the one who will survive. Because on the fare side, it is pretty commoditized. It's like, you know, buying a bottle of water. You know, when you look at an online travel portal, everybody's fares are like what, 10 rupees off each other? Right. So when that is so commoditized and you can't really suddenly demand a 15–20% premium, then what gives you the confidence that I'm going to have a cost structure which is 30%, 40% higher? Right. So I think that's where I know it's the boring grunt work of the airline business that kind of creates those success models actually.
Yeah, but when we see the fares earlier, about 2 or 3 years ago, the low-cost airlines were obviously a little lower. Yeah. But now we look at the fares now, they pretty much compete with the full-service model. So why is that happening?
The reason that is happening is that, first of all, you know, there's a difference between low-cost carrier and a low-fare carrier. In many parts of the world, actually, it's difficult to create a low-cost carrier, but everybody becomes a low-fare carrier, right? Because the full-service guy is not able to charge or demand or command a premium. So then they have no choice but to start matching, you know, what the prevalent fare is. And where the prevalent market leader is a low-cost carrier, who is the price determinant, you know, you just don't have the ability, especially in the 2, 3, 4 hour range, to charge any premium at all, right? So it's not that and especially now, where I think because of the consolidation that you mentioned, the fare environment is maturing, right? It's much like what happened to the US. I mean, you know, I'll sound biased, but I really say this objectively. It is going to be a 3-player market for a long, long period of time, right? And if it's a 3-player market, then the fare environment, the pricing environment, everything begins to mature. And naturally, you're seeing this. You're seeing 92%, 94% load factors with RASK levels which are higher, 11, 12% higher than last year. There is no new capacity coming in. I mean, whatever capacity is kind of coming in is either replacement capacity, and nobody can start a new airline. Right. Why can't they start a new airline? Because there are no planes available. There are no delivery slots till 27, 28, 29, 30. If you go to Airbus, I think it's 29, 30. If you go to Boeing, it's 28, 29. So for the next 5, 6 years, it's this ideal situation, massive demand, very little supply, high moat, nobody else can come in. Naturally, fares will be higher.
So let's come to another topic where we hear a lot more airports coming in. Obviously, you've spoken about huge amount of demand and a lot of orders for aircrafts. Does it all sound real to you? Do you think our projections, our numbers are actually real?
So, I think, you know, Samir said, right, that like, you know, don't say that, you know, it's going to be different this time. but I think, look, from the airport's perspective, what we are experiencing in India today is the largest airport infrastructure build-out ever in global aviation history. Till 2014, we had 74 airports. In the last 10 years, that has become 149 airports. In the next 2 years, that's going to be 225 airports. So just the sheer amount of, you know, airport infrastructure that is coming in, that is what is also one of the driving forces behind that 33% growth in metro, non-metro to non-metro. But the second thing, you know, when I say this, it's not unreasonable to ask, but then, like, you know, how many planes are going to fly into Hampi, right, or Hubli? Yeah. But when you look at the large constrained airports, right, I was last Friday, today is Thursday, exactly a week back, actually, literally